So we do
I have to
one
ask
question.
You know what the GOAT's number was? 23. And the thing about this podcast, REI Baddies, they also have 23 episodes in their first year. That tells you they are the GOAT of podcasting right now. They're filling the space between OGs in the business and brand newbies. They are absolutely killing it. And also, we need way more women investors that are doing podcasts. Why? Because right now, there's proof, scientific numbers that are telling us that more women are entering into the business of real estate investing and developing than ever before. Here's the thing. You got to go check out their podcast every Monday morning at 6 a.m. These guys are such baddies, that they drop an episode early in the morning because only early birds catch that worm.
What's up, Baddies Nation? Welcome back to another episode of REI Baddies, where real estate gets real. I'm your co-host, Rachel Davis.
And I'm Kate Baldwin.
And today we're joined...
Yeah.
It's okay.
Today we are joined by someone we are so excited about. I was so excited, I totally forgot to talk. But yeah, today we have somebody that is absolutely taking space in our industry, and I'm super excited to announce her. It's Andrea Cannon. Welcome. So
let's restart that one, Kate, just because I think you got a little... All good.
Well,
Andrea, do you mind if we do a take two?
No, that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because I was like, is that stuff really in the back of my hand?
So yeah, Kate, you'll go all the way. There's like 3 lines for three.
Thank you. Thank you.
All good.
Well, then I'm getting like all these text messages. I'm so sorry. Okay, go.
What's up, Baddies Nation? Welcome back to another episode of REI Baddies, where real estate gets real. I'm your co-host, Rachel Davis.
And I'm Kate Baldwin. And today we are joined by somebody we've been so excited.
I am on Do Not Disturb, and they have like...
Me too!
What is going on?
All right.
So sorry.
What I have to do when I do this, I have to like literally sign out of my face. Let me just make sure I'm signed out. Yeah, I'm signed out.
Okay.
Face
I'm going to
time.
go 3rd time's the charm.
Right.
Are you good, Andrea?
Yes. I mean, I'm on Do Not Disturb. How do I pull it off of my... Can you guys... Because you guys could hear that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you go to like click on your FaceTime, like your little box on the bottom, it has like the little camera.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And then click on that and then just sign out. Because your text messages won't do that. It's only FaceTime.
Okay. Well, it was a call.
Yeah, but they're through FaceTime.
Okay. I think so.
Think so?
Yes. Okay. I am so sorry.
Don't be
God.
do not
What
worry about
happens
it.
in the middle, we're just going to edit it out. But since we're at the beginning.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't worry, yeah, you could always go.
One more time. What's up, Baddies Nation? Welcome back to another episode of REI Baddies, where real estate gets real. I'm your co-host, Rachel Davis.
And I'm Kate Baldwin. And today we are joined by someone that we're really excited to have. And we've been thinking about this for a long time. I know I have. Andrea Cannon. Andrea is one of those people that somehow manages to go be everywhere at one time. So if you're on her social, she's in one state and then the next you're like, how did you get there? Rachel and I have this ongoing thing on like this like joke. Like basically she has to be like some kind of spy because between her travel schedule and places that she pops up at, it is the only explanation that makes sense.
She's also a dedicated Diet Coke enthusiast, which honestly feels like an important character trait detail at this point. We are so lucky to have caught Andrea in one place long enough to sit down with her. So Andrea, welcome to REI Baddies. We are so glad you are here.
Glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much. And I do have Diet. I love it.
So anybody that works for Diet Coke, sorry, you need to give her a call because she is like your number one fan.
120%. So I guess we've already gone through, obviously you have a Diet Coke within arm's reach. So let's get to some more stuff. And for our folks who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having me on. I'm really happy to be here. And we were just discussing before this podcast, but Rachel was on my podcast several months ago now, and she was one of our earlier guests. And it's super exciting to be able to get on her podcast and return the favor. And it's just so fun to do the collaboration. So thanks once again for having me, you both.
Of course.
Super exciting to be here. But a little bit about my journey. So I am a full-time pharmacist right now, and throughout that process, I've always wanted to do a little bit more. And so I thought, what's the best way to start building wealth outside of just my job? And I was thinking about it and investing in the stock market, but I'd always wanted to get into real estate. And even back like when I got married, so it's been more than 10 years now, I brought some real estate investing books with me to my honeymoon because I was like, I'm getting serious. This is like what I want to do, going forward. But my husband was in residency or just starting residency on our right after our honeymoon, and we were kind of unstable, had student loans, all the things, and so it was one of those things where I'm like, I want to get into it, but besides buying our primary home, I just didn't feel like it was the right time with everything else we had going on. And so after we finally got settled, his residency, his fellowship was finished, we're like, okay, it's time to get started in real estate investing. And so we bought a duplex and decided to house hack, so live in one side of the duplex and rent out the other side of the duplex. And I absolutely hated it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing I've ever done. I live next door to my tenant. It's the smallest place. Like it was nice, but we lived in Utah at the time, and we would go skiing and we would come back and there was nowhere to even put the skis, so they would just sit in the living room. And I'm like, this is my worst nightmare.
Yeah. Ugh.
So I hated that so much so he bought the duplex in his name. So 6 months later, I turned around and bought a single family home in my name, and we moved out of the duplex, rented out both sides, and moved into that other single family home. And at that point in time, between those two properties, we didn't know anything besides just regular traditional finance. And so we had put several $100,000 down into these two properties. And then we were kind of out of money at that point in time to invest in real estate. And so I was like, man, how's everybody else buying these houses? Like, what's everybody else doing? I don't understand. Like, what is happening? And so I was saying this out loud, and you guys know how our phones are, right? Like I automatically started getting these targeted ads on Facebook from this guy named Pace Morby. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? Right? And he's like, you can buy houses with no money down. And I was like, scammer.
You're like, yeah, right, scammer.
Definitely a scam. Yeah. And so I looked him up on Bigger Pockets, and there's mixed reviews on Bigger Pockets. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I was like, okay, I'm not sure. But at that time, he was coming out with a book, Wealth Without Cash. And so I decided to buy it and read it while I was on vacation with my family in Alaska. So there's like a theme of like travel and, personal development and all this stuff, right? Honeymoon, the books there, Alaska, the books here, same thing. And so I read his book, Wealth Without Cash, and I started making calls like the week I got back from Alaska.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think I had the same kind of I was like, who is this guy? There's no way. I've been in real estate like 8 years. I was like, there's no way. This guy's a joke. Yeah. Well, we all know where that led
Andrea,
us.
I was going to say, our first 3 episodes, I'm pretty sure every person said like, so I swiped my credit card. I was pretty sure it was a scam. Like that started to get to the point where I was texting Jamil and Pace being like, so I'm noticing a theme.
Yeah, I really felt that way. But honestly, that was such a game-changing moment for me because I started making calls and I was like, well, I don't really think like if I'm going to, be making calls, but I don't really know what I'm doing, I probably should join Sub 2. I either need to stop making calls because like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to mess it up, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know enough people to rely on to like help me take action, or I need to just suck it up and join Sub 2. And that was the thing for me. I mean, it was like a game-changing moment because now we have I have 10 doors, a couple are co-livings, and I'm doing private money lending. I've been doing wholesaling, and now this year I'm working on getting my first RV park. And I'd say none of that would be possible had I not learned about creative finance. I probably would just have maybe one more property, maybe two at the most, after those two that I had purchased. And so it's definitely been an absolute game changer for me.
That is
love
some
it.
good knowledge right there. That's some good points. I love that, actually.
She's
Thank
actually
you.
kind of parlaying into the question, Kate, about
Yeah.
like what surprised her. Do you want to ask her that?
I mean, so like what surprised you the most about like where because you posted in your team had done in 2025 and that you
Mhm.
put up yesterday, and I was really intrigued by that. And you give us this breakdown on why you believe that you and your team thrived in a year where most investors, or I would say AKA real estate agents, chose to give up. They put their head in the sand. They said it's too hard. There's too many negative things happening. But you seem to manage to find the light in some darkest times in real estate right now.
Yeah, and so, what you're referencing, and just for anybody who hasn't seen that post, is yesterday I broke down our 2025 wholesale income report, and this was our first full calendar year as a team doing wholesaling. We started in the middle of 2024, so we have some prior experience. It's not like we started, that was not like our very
Sure.
first month in January. But we ended up doing just under $200,000 in assignment fees, and we all have a lot of other things going on. So, like I mentioned, I work a full-time job still, and so do
Right.
my partners as well. So this wasn't something that we were doing full time, but it was still really, I would say we're pretty proud of that
You should
for
be.
our year.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think, when you highlight what are you surprised about with those things, I mean, I think for us, we did a nice mix of creative and cash. So creative finance as well as cash deals. And so I think that was specifically very helpful because
Yeah.
we were able to pivot when other people necessarily aren't able to pivot. And our market still out west, we mostly do things in Utah, has been very slow because we had an absolute rocket ship up in the pandemic more than most other markets. And so we have had a pullback, sort of unlike other markets that's been going on basically since 2022 versus others. I think like we're a nice like Thomas the Tank Engine type of a uphill. Like ours was literally a rocket ship. And so when you go like that, you do have to come down some.
Oh,
And
yeah.
since
The keys were like that.
yeah, it's been perfectly ripe for creative finance. So it was a good fit. Yeah.
I love it. I think that lets me springboard to like your lifestyle looks very different, right, than the average traditional stay put investor model. How did travel become such a big part of how you live and work?
Yeah, so, when I was growing up, we didn't have a ton of money for travel or anything like that, but we would go to my grandmother's house and stuff in Ohio, and we would go on my dad's sales trips, and I always loved, going on like these little trips, but I never really did anything super amazing until our honeymoon. And I think for me, so we went to Santorini and Athens, and that was an absolute game changer for me. It was my first time in Europe. It was my first time like spending real big girl money on a vacation. And it was absolutely incredible.
Aw.
And I came back and I was like, I need to do that some more. Like that was so fun. And so right after, so I grew up in North Carolina. I got married out east. Like I went to school, all the things, and then my husband matched for general surgery residency in Utah. So we moved out west. And during that time, so right, we had our honeymoon, we move out west, and then I'm kind of getting exposed to all this outdoor stuff. And I was previously like, outdoors for me was going to the beach and sitting there, or getting on a boat and tanning, like not like no fishing, no nothing. Like I
Well,
was
I would
not
be fishing, but
yeah, and so for me, like that was really the extent of my like outdoorsiness. And so this kind of comes together with the travel piece because I started mixing the two of those. So we would go somewhere, and then we would also like go on a hike, and we would start doing these things, and I started prioritizing more and more. And so that very first year that we lived in Utah, I ended up taking 78 flights. And that for me was like crazy. So this sounds okay. And this is a funny thing too. Is I didn't work in a pharmaceutical job. I had a full-time 9 to 5 job at a location, at a pharmacy, at a hospital, and I still took these 78 flights. And now that is like the silliest number ever because I do way more than that. But it just started like compounding and compounding. So I switched out of the full-time, like in office type of a job, and now my role is more travel based. And so they mix together really well where I travel, and then I also am working, and I'm also having fun, and sometimes there's also real estate involved. Like, I'll give you an example. Today I am home in Reno because we just moved to Reno a couple months ago, but the past like 11 days or so have been, I left 2 Wednesdays ago for Salt Lake City. I did a group hike in Salt Lake City for my outdoors adventure community that I have. And then the next day, I helped co-host the Pace Morby Creative Nation Tour meetup in Salt Lake. Then on Saturday, I had a conference for work in Salt Lake. Then I flew on Saturday from Salt Lake to Hawaii, where I had a conference on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And my 2 friends came with me. And so after the conference was over, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we hung out, did fun things. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we stayed and I extended and we had fun and I had time off. And then I took a red eye to Vegas where I attended a conference for work. And then on Sunday,
Spy. She is a spy.
You are not. You work for the Fed, man. You are a Fed working woman.
This is all
You're
a
like
deep cover
super
story,
smart.
everyone.
She's trying to tell you where she was because she wasn't there.
Yeah, it's my alibi, right? I mean, the nice thing for me is that they all flow into each other. So it's not like
Sounded like that.
life balance, but it's more like integration, right? So it's sometimes I'm working my W-2 job at 11 p.m. at night, and sometimes I am doing real estate stuff at noon, and they just kind of work, right? And it's able to, and the travel, it became work, but it became real estate, but it became fun, and they're all kind of together, and that's the way it works the best for me. And so it's evolved over time into something like this. Yeah, and I really like it.
You share a lot, obviously. You just shared a lot. No, just kidding. I love it. I'm a talker too. Like speaking from the talker to the talker. And that obviously you're very social on social. And what makes you decide on what to post and what not to? I mean, is there some sort of privacy, like where you stop it at some point? Because you are very, a lot, like for myself, Rachel's more like you, where she could just go online no matter what it is and just talk. And then I'm like a perfection. I have, maybe my fear is perfectionism. Where do you find, like, how do you find that nerve, like that ability to like just put stuff out there? And do you have any rhyme or reason or?
Yeah, so something I sort of skipped over, you may have heard me mention it just a little bit with the outdoor community, but I had a content creation, like full-on side gig with a completely separate account that I posted on and decided I wanted to grow starting in 2019. And I grew it to over 60,000 followers. It was fully monetized, and it is still fully monetized, but I made a lot of money from that account. And I have deprioritized that now for real estate. But in that process, I learned a lot about content creation and a lot about sharing. Now, the difference with that account and this account is that one was entirely outdoors and travel, and I didn't really feel like I could share everything. And so I can kind of understand that, I don't know, almost like hesitation to share things maybe that are a little bit more personal because it was so niche. Like people were following me because they wanted to learn about outdoor hikes, like, and, or, where to travel in the season or something like that. They didn't really care like that I was buying a property, that didn't really matter to them. And so the same thing can be in the reverse. Like, let's say that your account is more about real estate, but now you want to share that you are signing up for a half marathon and you're going to be you're like, people don't really know. I don't really know that they care. So a year ago, right? I think it's like a year ago today or something like that, like very close to right now, I started a brand new account and I just decided I was going to share whatever the heck I wanted on there without being really confined to a niche. So the problem with that is you don't grow as fast because people aren't like, oh yeah, Andrea, she's the outdoor travel person. Follow her for outdoor travel. She lives in Reno right now. If you want to know stuff about Reno, she's probably your girl, right? It's the same thing you guys know in like real estate. Like if you can be like, go to Rachel. She's the one for master leases for co-living with nonprofits. Like it's really easy to point. So she's able to like build that brand really quickly. But for me, I'm so multi-passionate that I felt like I was really limiting myself. And so I decided to create this account that shares funny things about Diet Coke, like relationship humor, real estate stuff that I'm learning, right? Outdoors and travel stuff. Little tips.
I love all of your hacks for how to get more like benefits from flying.
Heck yes.
Like, you're like, here's this travel hack on how you can get more points. I'm like, preach to me, Andrea. Tell me your secrets.
And so for me, that's kind of how I decided, like, it's so much easier to share and now on this account, I just share everything, like anything and everything. And it's funny because people actually really appreciate more the lessons you've learned and maybe the hiccups you've had. I don't want to say like when you fail exactly, but people do like watching you fail. But realistically, the hiccups and the challenges, if you're sharing those, right, and you're reporting about them and you're talking about how you've been making these 50 calls to these places for master leases and none of them have come through, but then on 51 you finally made it. They're like, okay, well, I've called 10 and I didn't get anywhere, but Rachel, she called 50 and she didn't get anyone till 51, and that like makes people like inspired to do those things, right?
That's true.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so funny. It's almost like you like help lead into some of these questions. You're talking about like the good and the bad, right? And learning the lessons. So what's a rule that you have now for understanding when creative finance is the right solution versus when it's just people trying to force a strategy so they can lock a contract up? Because I mean, you've seen that with wholesaling, and I know like that you are an ethics-based person. So what is your rule? How do you communicate with people when you're like, maybe it's not a creative deal?
Yeah, so I think we're running into that a lot right now because interest rates have been above 5% for multiple years now, right? Really since 2022. And so now we're in our fourth year above 5%. And maybe you got some sort of new construction that popped an individual area down or something like that. But for the most part, things have been pretty high. And so we're seeing a lot of zero equity, take over the mortgage, 7.5% opportunities right now. And those are, I mean, if I locked up every single one of those, I could have 20 this week. So, but they're not, what is the end goal? What is the end game with these, right? You're putting somebody in a really bad situation because not only are they not getting a good interest rate, but they also have no equity. So if they did get a due on sale clause or they did have to refinance, they have absolutely nowhere to go with it. And so I think you have to make sure there's a very clear exit strategy when you lock up a contract.
Yep.
Preach.
I agree.
Thank you, Andrea. I may just have that go on loop. Just to make sure everyone understands that very valuable lesson.
Well, I wonder if we could dig into one of your, how would you feel about going into like one of your deals with us? Because I know that you were with Pace, like you said, with the creative podcast, but you also were with him last year. Which is the one I saw. It was about a year ago today. And you went through a deal that basically it was like your first $1 million deal in Utah.
Yeah.
What made that deal possible? Was it like the structure? Was it the terms, timing, the relationship? Like, how did you get that deal to close? And you could it be the structure, it could all be all four, like terms, structure, timing, relationship.
Yeah, just run us through the deal.
Absolutely. And I'll take you through it pretty briefly. So this is my very first deal that I did. And when I mentioned I, came back from Alaska and started making calls, like this is one of the ones. And so kind of how I was doing it is I had no idea what I was doing. So I was like looking on Zillow to see like houses that were listed and like the ones that were listed for a long time. Cause I was like, oh, maybe those would be good. And then I would look on, it wasn't PropStream. It wasn't Deal Sauce. It was some other one, Privy.
Okay. I was going to say crispy or privy or.
My my friend had access to Privy, and so I would then take these Zillow listings and type the address in and just see what their mortgage was and see if there was any like potential opportunity. So I literally had zero clue what I was doing, but I found this property, and I was looking for rentals all over Utah, and then in this one tiny area, which was our favorite area, I was looking for, hey, I know we're in this bungalow right now that we bought, traditionally, but I would love a property for myself in this better area because of it's better for traffic, it's closer to the mountains, it's just all the things, right? So I was just sort of sidebar looking for one for myself. And so I'm doing this kind of process, and I come across this property that was bought in 2021 for 1.15 million or something like that. They listed it in early 2023. So before I even knew about creative finance, honestly, before I even bought that bungalow, they listed it for 1.3 million, just under 1.3 million. And then every 6 weeks they had dropped the price, and when I discovered this property, they were at 950,000. Oh. And when I typed this property into Privy, it said that they owed 957,000 on the mortgage. So I was like, jackpot, which sounds really bad. I was so
found a deal. I found a potential deal.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Yeah.
And wait, this is it. And what was your interest rate?
So their interest rate was 3.49%. And so I decided I was going to go door knock, obviously, because what else am I going to do? And so I go and reach out or go and it's a gated community. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to like hop this fence or something. Like, what am I going to do? But I was wearing a dress. So I decided instead there was another house for sale in this gated community. So I pulled that and, the reason why I had to go door knock, I'm sorry, I forgot this. They pulled it from the market. And I didn't know about withdrawn versus like, did it expire? I just didn't know anything. I just knew I had this house information. So I couldn't call the realtor because I didn't have that information anymore. But another house was for sale in the neighborhood. I called them to see if they had any information, and they said that they had moved out of state. So I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if I go to door knock because nobody's going to be there. So I decided to write them a letter. And I wrote them a letter and I just said, hey, I'd really love to buy your house. Give me a call. They did, which is crazy. And because that is not like the success rate on writing letters, I'm sure you guys know, is not that high. No. But it was handwritten, and like I'm a real person. And so they decided to reach out. And then I said, hey, this is the kind of structure I had in mind. And they were super hesitant. They had heard of this structure before, but from other people. And the people did not have an obvious, clear exit strategy for the property. And because it is a $1 million home, 5,200 square feet, gated community, it has an HOA, like all the things that would maybe make it so it's not gonna, you can't necessarily just use it for whatever you want, right? But I was like, no, I want to move in. And so
what's the primary?
Yes. And so what ended up happening is we structured it in a way that would protect them. So obviously we used a mirror wrap, of course, but then we also put 2 payments in escrow so that if we missed a payment, if something happened to us, then they could pull on those payments to get started while they're foreclosing. So
perfect.
Because there wasn't any equity, right? So since there's no equity, it's like we didn't want to like pay any extra. So that was our way of kind of structuring it. And so that made a lot of sense. But the crazy part is like they paid their realtor, they paid the solar off, they paid the mortgage from 957 down to 950. And there's no balloon, and it's a 3.49% interest rate. And, I did mention we just moved to Reno. So we moved out of this house, and it is now a fully furnished rental. We talked to the HOA, and they actually don't even care if we rented it nightly, but we rented it as a monthly rental for like the ski season for significantly more than our monthly payment, mortgage, all the things. And so, and we have somebody lined up after that for a little bit less money, of course, but it's fully furnished so that we can go back when we want to, because it's like my dream home. So,
oh my gosh. So if anybody in our audience is like listening to you right now saying like, that sounds impossible, Andrea, that's not true, that's scam. What would you say to someone to explain that not only is it possible for someone even newer in the community, but like, how would you demonstrate to them how they could potentially replicate it?
Yeah. So, I think with this particular deal, it made a ton of sense for me as an end buyer. And I think if people are looking for a house, one of the main people who would be looking for a property is an end buyer. And of course we could have qualified for a property on our own, but when we actually closed, which was October of 2023, the interest rates were at 8% at that time. That's that like little spike in the interest rates that happened. And, so I think for me, I had thankfully joined the sub-2 community. So anyone where I had questions, right, this is my very first deal. And so obviously I didn't want to mess it up. I got a TC from the community. I had questions, of course, so I was able to ask the community. I mean, I think finding other people that are doing exactly what you want to do and then leaning on them when it's time for you to do those things is the exact way I would try to replicate that. And it does sound like a scam, and I know how people are like, oh, there's no way anybody would want, like, why would a seller want to do that? It's clear why I would want to buy, but why would a seller want to do that? Well, if you think about the timeline I gave you, they listed it in March. And
No, they had no choice. I mean, this is what it's about. I mean, Rachel and I met through a gentleman that was doing this, where we were helping out, like, doing it for vets, basically not vets, my apologies, for active members who have to move. So, like, usually they go in, they don't really have a down payment. And if they do, it's very minimal. They don't usually have, like, and especially with the way that interest rates were really low, they paid high, they can't go sell it because it's like the whole, that is another avenue of that, you could really focus on in this industry. Now, sub-2 is definitely has its advantages, but I love that you put that, did you use a third-party escrow company? Yes. Or, yeah.
Yeah, we have one in Utah called Escrow Specialists, and we've used them on all of our deals. The thing about servicing companies, a lot of them, they do a written check. So you just have to be careful. So we worked with the seller to say, okay, we were going to pay on the first, but then by the time we paid, they took the money out of our account, then they got the money into the servicing company's account, then they wrote the check, then they mailed the check. It wasn't posting until really close to the deadline. So we actually worked with them to move it. Our payments now are on the 20th of the month for that following first when they're technically due. And then they won't be late, of course, at the mortgage company.
So there's no wiring.
Yeah, it's just weird, but a lot of servicing companies do that. So if you're using a servicing company or you're doing sub-2, just keep that in mind, because you don't want to be late and start messing with things, because of course that not only can cause problems for you and the seller, but it can make the bank start paying more attention to the loan, and you have a higher risk for due on sale when things aren't going just smoothly. So we don't want that to happen. So we moved our payment. We actually increased our payment too, just to make sure, if there's ever any fluctuations and the sellers forget to tell us right away, it's already covered because we've been paying a little bit extra. We pay a little extra every month. So just in case that ever happened, it mattered so much for us because this, first of all, was our first deal, but also because we love this house so much and I literally never want to sell it. So don't want anything to happen to it with such a good interest rate. So I'm definitely taking advantage of that.
I freaking love that. I love that so much. Kate, do you want to ask about the question about her random place with the calls?
Yeah, go ahead. I feel like I've talked so much.
Oh, you're fine. So one of the things Kate and I were really interested in is what's the most random place you've taken a real estate call? And maybe it's a little bit embarrassing to admit on the internet.
I take real estate calls from everywhere. So boarding planes, I've definitely taken them from there. Of course, I'm sure you're not surprised. I've actually wired money while in flight, and I'm like, I think this is just hilarious. But my favorite one though is my second deal. So the deal immediately after this is my third deal. So it was my first wholesale deal though. So my second deal I actually got for my best friend Liz. So she actually moved into that property. But my very first wholesale deal, which was my third deal that I did in 2023, I closed the deal on FaceTime while hiking.
That's oh my God, I love that.
I know, and I'm and I know this about Rachel too, because she also closed deals while on her Everest base.
Oh, she likes she's definitely unique.
That is, yeah. I remember when we talked about that, I was like, oh man, we're girls who close on trails.
Well, I close deals fishing.
Yes, I love
there
it.
You go.
Love it.
That's you guys like the trails, and I'm a fisher lady.
Yes.
I'm too afraid of rogue waves. I can't do that.
My husband always makes fun of me when we're skiing, is when we get on the chairlift, I always check and I'm voice memoing people and doing things right then. He's like, what are we buying now? What are you doing?
Oh my gosh, Andrea, you're my soulmate, because everyone yells at me. I'm always on the boat, checking. They're like, Kate, I'm like, they're like, we're gonna take you like 4 more miles. There's no, like, no, no, no. I can hook up to the GPS. Nope, I can hook up. I already figured it out before I got on this boat. Sorry,
Oh
guys.
my
I am
gosh.
on the radar.
Love
20,
it.
That's awesome.
Andrea, what were you saying?
I'm dialed in while I'm skiing. It's just on the chairlift. Like I gotta.
100%.
yeah, you know.
One question I skipped over earlier. What are 3 of your favorite places you've traveled?
Oh man, this is so hard. Okay. I always used to say that my favorite place was that I traveled with my husband was New Zealand. And then we went on our 10-year wedding anniversary trip in August and we did a safari in Africa in 7 different countries. And that was freaking insane. I already went back to Africa since then. I went in December and I'm already ready to go again. So it was just so incredible, the animals. So New Zealand is definitely a top. I also went there again last year as well. If I had to pick a country in Africa so far, I think I would say South Africa, but it's very hard to say specifically. And then for 3, it's so tricky because there's just so many cool places, but I really, really enjoyed. We went on a trip to Norway last year, me and a couple friends, and it was magnificent. I have plans to go back this year, and I'm working on plans to go back next year, but they're all in different places. So it's like saying that you went to the US, right? Like, but you went to California one time, and then you went to
Sure.
New York, and then you went to Florida, right? Those are all different, and so it's kind of different places. So like last year we went to Lofoten. I went to Narvik a couple years ago. Before that, this plans we're flying into Oslo, and we're doing a lot of the like popular hikes in that region, so like Trolltunga and Preikestolen and like those, and then potentially next year it's really going to depend on a lot of other factors, but it's very high as to go to Svalbard and see the polar bears, but that's also part of Norway. So like it's all the like all the different places. So I think that would have to be number 3 just for that sheer fact, but man, there's so many good ones.
So in
All
6
that,
years,
like,
Olivia graduates from college, and by then I want to be your best friend.
Yes.
And me and Rachel have, yeah, in 6 years, our kids will be at it in college. We'll be joining you.
So real quick, isn't Svalbard the place? I know there's a content creator that like lives there. You're like not allowed to die there. Like you have to exit if you're not healthy enough. And it's like a very, very remote, is it an island or?
Yes, it's very far, very, very, very far north. So like not Arctic Circle north, like North Pole north, like the top,
Yeah.
like very far north. And they have polar bears. You have to have like guns when you're walking around or an escort. It is, yeah, it is very, very remote. So
That is so cool.
I mean, I don't want to get on a tangent with this topic, but it has to be a question we have to ask you. You know, have you ever considered doing international real estate?
I haven't, but I would love to consider it at some point. One of my main issues with international real estate, though, is even though I've been to New Zealand twice, I'm mentioning going back to Africa. This will be my multiple times in Norway. My tricky part is like I'm still not going to the exact same spots.
Yeah.
So it's tricky to be like,
You
if
have a lot more knowledge than a lot more people, and I think
that's
that's,
true.
honestly, but the knowledge of traveling, it's like anything, right? You do it. There's more of a confidence. I guess there's just so much opportunity for you since you do. And then, I don't know, just figuring out what areas, maybe even you could do your class or something. Like you could be promoting it somehow, like, teaching people over there. I'd just be meeting people at coffee shops, be like, hey, this is what I do in the States. You want to do it?
So Andrea, that's actually a great segue to what are you looking for in 2026? Like we're
Yeah,
getting
how can
close
the audience
to
help you?
yeah.
Yeah, so for me specifically, I am going to continue to wholesale. It's been a great way to find deals, and that's one of the main reasons that I got into it in the first place was, okay, if I'm not going to buy it, but I did all the work, let me pass it off to someone else, right? So it's more of an exit strategy for me. But for my partners, it's a great active income. I mean, it's great active income for me too, but I do have a great job, so it's not like that is 100% needed, but it's great because we have found several deals we've wanted to keep long term through it. So I'm going to continue to wholesale, and particularly we do a lot of deals in Utah. So if you have anything in Utah, a lead that you're working, a pre-foreclosure, a sub-2 potential seller finance, cash deal, definitely reach out to me. We do things other places, but Utah has been like our biggest strength, and so we can most help you there. And so that'd be, I guess, thing number one. Thing number two is private money lending. So I realized after I purchased, got to these 10 houses, I thought, okay, my next goal is going to be 100. Like when I had set this, I want 10 doors in the next 5 years. And I got there and I was like, I originally thought I was going to go to like 100 doors or something. Then I'm like, no, actually, no. Actually, I don't think so. I don't mind adding a few more things to the portfolio. One of my partners is managing our co-livings, and I am fine to continue to add as long as we have somebody that's not me that's managing them. So that's fine. But I'm not going to 100 doors. I can tell you that. So I found private money lending as kind of an alternate to buying more single family homes. And it has been an absolutely wonderful fit to my lifestyle. Hiking in Norway and getting a notification that I just got, a monthly interest payment. It's really nice. And so, anyone who wants to connect about private money lending, I'm primarily doing first position fix and flip loans. So if you are that person as a borrower, feel free to reach out for me there. And then, like I said, if you are interested in getting into private money lending yourself, I'm happy to walk you through kind of my process and what I do and see if I can help you in any way. And then something I'm most excited about is I am looking to acquire an RV park this year, and we're focused on transient style, resort style RV parks with at least 50 pads and a net operating income of at least $250,000. And our states that we're targeting in this order are Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, and Montana. And so it's my exact choices.
Oh my God, that's like so hard.
Yes. So we are
beautiful states.
I know, they're so pretty. And I had a van. Me and my husband did van life for a bit. And so I have a lot of experience with that side. And it's a really good fit for my personality, the travel aspect, all of the things related to outdoors and kind of linking everything together. So that's how we can work together this year if anyone is doing any of those things.
So how do people come at you correct? Is it
What was that?
Does your husband actually do surgery?
Yes, he's a surgeon. Yes. Yes, he does colon and rectal surgery. And so we did van life in between his residency and his fellowship, and then in between his fellowship and his job. So it was a full month, and then another 3 months after that, and then a ton of weekend trips. So
I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. We sold our van when we moved back to Utah, and so we haven't had one in a bit, but we're still thinking about getting another one because we loved the experience.
I love that. I want to make sure, people can come at you correctly. How do you want people to approach you? Do you have a website? Is it about getting on your Instagram? Like, what's the best? Do you have office hours? How should people reach out to you, Andrea?
Yeah, so honestly, the best way is to connect on Instagram or to send me an email at theandreacannon@gmail.com. And that way we can figure out how to best plug you in, because it really depends on which sort of thing, so I can funnel you in the right direction. So that'd be the best way to connect, is either of those two ways, and then we'll see how we can work together from there.
I love it. Kate,
All right,
final question. It's all you.
Question. You ready? All right, Andrea, since you're already one of my favorite people out there on this planet, what makes you, Andrea, an REI baddie?
Yeah, so I mean, they sent me the questions ahead of time, and this one was one I had to think about. But I think what makes me an REI baddie is that I am very intentional and go out and do what I say I'm going to do. And so for me, just like at the very beginning, as soon as I read Pace's book, I started making phone calls. It has never stopped since then. This is year 3 of being really into real estate and going after it just the same way. And so if anyone out there is listening, I think doing exactly what you say you're going to do and taking action with intention is the best way to be an REI baddie.
Heck yeah. Preach. Clip it. No.
Great. Thank you so
Andrea, this was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for just taking the time out of your travels to hang out with me and Kate. And of course, for everyone listening, we will link Andrea's YouTube and socials below so you can keep up with wherever she is spying or traveling to next. And you may even spot her ordering a Diet Coke somewhere in the world. So as always, hit the like button, subscribe, all the things so we can bring more baddies like Andrea on the show. Until next time, stay batty.